You're welcome, my dear student, in this new episode from your program مدرسة الهواء for students of Prep 1 to explain science curriculum. Today we're going to talk about Unit 3, Lesson 1, that is titled with Living Organisms, Diversity and Principles of their Classifications. Unit 3, Lesson 1, we talk today about the diversity means variation. Many different, many kinds of animals and plants. You see, my dear student, that in the world there are a lot of types of living organisms. There are plants, there are animals. Okay, there are some microorganisms, and there is a difference between them. There is diversity between them. Not all of them are the same kind. So today we're gonna study. What are the types of living organisms, how can we differentiate between them, and what are the principles of classification to facilitate their study. Okay, there are many examples of living organisms, as you know, my dear student, as animals, plants, and microorganisms, as you see on the monitor, please. There are many examples of living organisms, animals, plants, and microorganisms. Okay. First, diversity of living organisms. Animals are different, and as you know, my dear student, there are a lot of animals all over the world, in all places all over the world, but they are different. Different in what? Different in the size. There are big animals, small animals, and in the environments where animals live, some of them live on the ground, on the land, and others live in water, and others live in air. 3, the shape. They are different in their shapes. Number 4, the way of feeding. First, the size. There are big animals as elephant and rhinoceros, and there are small animals as rabbit, rat, and lizard. Number 2, the environment where animals live. There are animals which live in water as fishes. Fishes is plural of fish. Crocodiles, fishes, some different groups of fish. Crocodiles and hippopotami. Okay, as you see. The animals which live on land as horse, dog, and lion. According to plants, plants are different from each other in many characteristics, such as length. There are short trees, short plants, and there are long plants. Number 2, the size of the leaves. There are some plants that have big leaves and others have small leaves, as you see. The length. Huge trees, as you see on the monitor, huge trees are as camphor, as you see here, camphor, it's a very huge tree, and palm tree is very long. There are huge trees. And number 2, short weeds, very small, very short, as clover and garugir. All of us know what's meant by garugir. Number 2, the size of the leaves, according to plants. Number 1, plants carry large sized leaves as banana plant. Its leaf is very, very big. And number 2, plants carry small sized leaves as molokhia plant. Molokhia plant has very small leaves. Now let's talk about diversity of microorganisms. We talked about diversity in animals. Number 2, diversity in plants. Number 3, diversity of microorganisms. But what's meant by microorganisms? As you notice, my dear students, micro comes from microscope. Microscopes means something, device that's used to enlarge, to get it bigger, make it bigger, for many times, as million times, to see something or some living organism that you can see with your naked eye. So micro means very small. Okay, microorganisms They are living organisms that can't be seen by the naked eye. Naked eye means eye without microscope, eye without lens, okay? But they spread everywhere around us. In air there are microorganisms as microbes. In water there are microorganisms, and in soil there are microorganisms. Microorganisms exist in pond, water, مياه البرك, and can be seen only by the microscope, as I said to you before. Like amoeba, this is amoeba. Number 2, Euglena. Number 3, Paramecium. It's like shoe. Amoeba, Euglena, Paramecium, they are the microorganisms. And you have to notice that these figures can be can you find it in the practical exam. Okay. Microorganisms differ from each other in shape and way of movement. Amoeba moves by seed pods, and Euglena moves by flagellum. Okay, this is flagellum. Okay, and Paramecium moves with cilia. Classification of living organisms. We talked about diversity. Not all living organisms are the same kind, but they are different from each other. We have millions and millions of different living organisms that we can see in the world. But now let's talk about classification. What's meant by classification? To put each group, each similar members together, and classify them, to put them in a group, in a class together, okay, and make differences, study differences between each different groups, and study similarities between each members of one group. Classification of living organisms. Why? Why do we have to make classification of living organisms? Sure, to what? If you have a lot of books in your home, and they are different books, and they are not arranged, can you pick one of them easily? No. If you need to read a book about science and all books together, you can't easily find it. But if you classify them, to put all science book in this on this shelf, and all mathematical in another shelf, or about sports on another shelf, it makes it easy to find what you need to find in a short time. So why we have to classify living organism? To facilitate, to make it easy. Facilitate here means to make it easy. To facilitate their study. Living organisms must be classified into groups to facilitate their study. But what is the name of the branch of science that study the classification? The principle for classification, in charge of classification, it is called taxonomy. What's meant by taxonomy? Taxonomy is a branch of science, but not all of science. We know science consists of biology, that studies all about living organisms, physics, that studies all about energy and motion, chemistry, that studies all about chemical reactions and chemical substances, matter, and so on. Geology, that studies all about the earth, the sun, the stars and planets. But taxonomy studies what? It studies classification, it studies groups of living organisms that are different or similar. So it is related to what? Not physics, not chemistry, but biology. So taxonomy is a branch of biology that searches for the similarities, as you see on the monitor please, and the differences among living organisms. Again, taxonomy, it is the branch of biology that searches for the similarities, تشابهات, and the differences among living organisms, and it places the similar ones in groups, according to a certain system, in order to ease, make it easy, to ease their study. Plans of classifications of living organisms. What are our plans to classify this living organism. We can classify them according to what? Number one, we can classify plants. Plants can be classified according to external shape and way of reproduction. External shape and way of reproduction. Reproduction means to get new individuals, to get new birth, okay? And also we can classify animals. We can say that living organism consists of animals or divided into animals, plants, and microorganisms. We talked about microorganisms. But now let's talk about animals and what? And plants. We can classify animals according to many criteria, and we can classify plants according to external shape and way of reproduction. Classification of animals according to, number one, nature of body supporting as bones. Number two, number of legs in arthropods. They are different arthropods, different from each other in number of legs. Number three, number of teeth in mammals. Let's talk about classification of plants. Classification of plants according to, this is number one, according to external shape. As you remember, my dear students, we can classify plants according to, number one, external shape, number two, way of reproduction. Number one, according to external shape. We can classify plants according to external shape into number A. Some plants can't be distinguished. What is meant by can't be distinguished? ما نقدرش نميزها. Into roots, stems, and leaves. You can know that something is a plant if it has root that grows below the ground, and stem that grows on the ground, and leaves. But there are some plants, can you believe that? There are some plants that can't be distinguished into roots, stem, or leaves. As what? As algae. And we have many types of algae. As you see, green algae. Number two, red algae. Number three, brown algae. Okay. B. Most of plants are distinguished into root, stem, and leaves. So we have two types of plants according to the external shape. Plants that don't have roots, stem, or leaves, and number two, plants that have roots, stem, and leaves. As what? As maize. Maize. The second picture is for maize. Wheat, palm, and camphor. Okay. So first part, first criteria, we can classify plants according to external shape. External shape, we have plants that can be distinguished into roots, stem, and leaves, and others which can't be distinguished into roots, leaves, or stem as algae. But number two, classification of plants according to their way of reproduction. And we have two types. A, plants reproduce by formation of spores. Spores here means very small, very tiny cells. حاجات صغيرة جدا. جراثيم. As furnace. What's meant by furnace? Furnace, they are plants which are small terrestrial plants reproduce by spores as vogel and adiantum. Vogel and adiantum. These are. Okay. B, plants reproduce by formation of seeds. Seeds means that they can do sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction that needs male and female. Male plant and female plant. These are called flowering plants. They are higher types of plants that can form seeds. Okay. They must have flowers. Like number one, Gymnosperms, which their seeds are formed inside cones and not inside pericarp. Like what? Like vine and cycas plant. Vine and cycas plant. They can reproduce by forming seeds, but their seeds are not inside pericarp, but inside just cone, as you see. Number 2, angiosperms. Their seeds are formed inside a pericarp. They are divided into, number 1, monocotyledon. Monocotyledon plants. They are the plants which their seeds consist of just one cotyledon, فلقة واحدة, as maize and wheat plant, just one part. It's called monocotyledon plants. B, dicotyledon plants. Example, bean plant. The bean plant, this, if you take this seed, you can divide it into two parts, two cotyledon, dicotyledon plants. Di here means two. Bean plant and pea plant. So we can classify plants, number 1, in external shape, into distinguished by presence of stem, roots and leaves as trees, and number 2, plants which can't be distinguished into leaves, roots and stems as algae. Number 2, the second way to classify plants according to the way of reproduction. Number 1, by formation of spores as furnace. Number 2, by formation of seeds as gymnosperms and angiosperms. Okay, and angiosperms consist of two, or divided into two parts. Number 1, monocotyledon as wheat and maize. Number 2, dicotyledon as bean plant and pea plant. And now let's talk about classification of animals. Okay, classification of animals, number 1, according to the nature of body supporting. According to body supporting. Okay, number A, animals with soft bodies, which doesn't have body support, doesn't have bones, their bodies don't have support, as jellyfish, octopus and earthworm. Number 2, or number B, animals which supported body, divided according to the location of support into. Number 1, animals which with external support, bones from out the body, not inside the body, as mussels and snails. Number 2, animals which with internal support, their bones inside it, like vertebrates such as fishes, reptiles, birds, mammals, and even human. Human has bone, vertebral column. He has bones inside his body. Some animals are characterized by presence of internal and external support together, as aquatic turtle, as you see, my dear student. Number 2, classification of arthropods according to the number of legs. Arthropods, they are living organisms, invertebrate, they don't have vertebral column, don't have backbone, and they are different according to the number of legs into number 1, insect. But first, what's meant by arthropods? They are invertebrate animals that are characterized by presence of jointed legs, أرجل مفصلية. Number A, insects, and insects are characterized by presence of 3 pairs of jointed legs, as ants, locusts, bees, mosquito, flies, and cockroaches. If you want to now to count the legs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the cockroach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Give reason for the cockroach is from insects because it has 3 pairs, not 3 pairs of jointed legs. And number B, arachnids. Arachnids, they are characterized by presence of 4 pairs of jointed legs, 4 pairs, as spider and scorpion, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. They are 4 pairs. And here 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pairs for scorpion. See myriapods. Myriapods, they are characterized by the presence of numerous number, large number, very big number of legs as Scylopendra and Julius. Scylopendra and Julius. Okay. Classification of mammals according to the presence of teeth. A. Edentatus, teethless, they don't have teeth like sloth and armadillo. And mammals having teeth, they are divided according to the shape, the kind, and the number of teeth into number 1, animals that have front teeth, as you see, extending outward to capture insects as hedgehog. By this part, we reached the end of our lesson today. Hoping seeing you next time, and keep in touch on our Facebook group. Thank you and goodbye.